And welcome back everybody to another episode of All the Mods 10. I am your host, Undisturbed Potato, and today we are going to have a little overview of what's going on and what we are going to be doing next. But one thing I did want to mention during this episode was that I did start building the castle out, or at least I did the roof all around. It's pretty cool. I think I like how the design came out. Nothing too crazy. Has a little bit of thickness, and I did put lanterns inside. Added a few spruce logs for support, and I did it randomly so it doesn't look too crazy, but I think it came out pretty good. Another little update to the gate is now it does go up and down. If we come inside into the little area, as you can see, I added some fence as support for the stairs. This still needs to be worked on just a bit, but this is kind of what I have going on. As you can see, I did use a little bit of create right here to get the drawbridge to work. I did add a little ladder and filled in the top over here so we could always come up. But if we come over here, you can see that I am using a rope pulley to move these spruce fences. To move the spruce fences, you are going to need some super glue from the create mod. So I right clicked this corner and then I right clicked the very bottom over here to make that all one object or one thing to move. And then you just gotta move the hose pulley down till it touches, and then you will be able to move it up and down via one of these hand cranks. So in our case, if we come right here, and I right click it, as you can see, it's not doing anything. That's because if I right click it this direction, it is to move it up. But if I hold shift and right click after a small little update, you can see that it's going down. So this is how we are going to be raising and lowering the gate. But yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. Got this all set up. I am not sure if I'm gonna do a daylight sensor little setup to automatically do this, just because that will involve some create, and I kind of don't want to add it inside this tower or the next one. So if I end up doing that, that's probably going to have to be later. Post all the mods star, just because I'm pretty sure you can create the creative motor, and then that's when we could do a little bit of redstoning to get all that said and done. But honestly, I do like how this is coming out, especially since we have a majority of this done, or basically this is done. I am unsure whether I do want to add some cannons from supplementaries, but we could always add a cannon from here, or we could always do a schematic cannon, just so we have some battle defense along this thing, but that's to be determined later. The one thing I did want to show off was this guy. I'm pretty sure you guys saw it, but this is supposed to be the little mansion for our barony up here. We are Baron Potato. This is going to be our nice mansion. Of course, there is a little bit of room, so I do plan on making maybe a little barracks or some houses along here just for the guards, so to speak. I was planning on adding a personal blacksmith, however, I rather add a nice little front courtyard with a fountain rather than doing that. So that's just a little update as to what to expect on what is being added. I will be building from here to there. That's what I did yesterday. That's why I didn't record a video. I kind of didn't feel like doing stuff, so all I did was build a little bit, make sure a few things were working on the side. So if you guys do want to be able to see that and watch me build in real time, just let me know and I might do a live stream or two whenever I am building. But I did want to ask a question, whether I should keep this circular tower or remove it, just because I did not pay attention to the dimensions and I might have made it a little bit too big for this. So if I do keep it, the plan is to somehow blend the roof here to the back side of the building. And then this is still going to be basically its own little tower. However, if I do remove this tower, I am just going to add another design like this on this side and maybe some glass windows in the middle resembling something like this instead. Then I'll work on the roof, and then the rest of the building will basically have a few windows, a little bit of design, and then just close off and then finish the roof. Inside, I am not sure what I want to do. I do know I want to add a library and a nice little dining area. Other than that, let me know what you guys think I should add inside the mansion. Little FYI, the back side or the backyard will be a flower garden. Yeah, up here in the front, we're probably gonna have a small little garden somewhere and a nice fountain. Let's take a quick nap. Oh, can't sleep. It's not raining hard enough, but yeah. Let me know what you guys think I should do regarding this, whether I should keep it or get rid of it. I will give you guys 2 days to decide. Instead, I'll work on the front yard and the barracks, as well as finding out what else I want to build on the outside. Today's episode's basically going to be a little refresher on the Productive Bee mod and just talking about a couple of other things that we are going to be getting into. So let me head over here and get over here. So we have been slowly but steadily working our way to the All the Mods star. I haven't really done anything too crazy or too perfect, but what I can say is we have made the Socotra tree. We got in a few micro missiles from chests. However, we are going to need more, so next episode we are going into Nomadic Craft and a little bit of Create. For you guys that haven't messed around with that mod, it is very simple compared to some of these other guys. But yeah, we technically have parts for the Void Forge, and we technically have everything needed to make the Abyssal Sacrifice, which, as you can see, do fit into some of the other components. And if we take a quick look, we have a couple things that we could make. In today's episode, I did want to go over making this rainbow furnace, as well as the rainbow coal, just because that is also another thing that is going to be needed. I'm pretty sure it's here in the Philosopher's Field. Yes, it is. It is this one. And here's another generator that we are going to be needing to make, and that one, which is pretty cool, so I highlighted them. So let me get rid of some of these building materials, and then we'll talk about what we are going to make. So, in this episode, I am going to cover how to make this rainbow furnace, which honestly, it is very simple. If we take a quick look, all we need is some rainbow plating and a rainbow core, which if we take a look at the rainbow plating, is just asking for a furnace of each of these types, which we already covered. After all, we are at the netherite tier, so combining all these to get one of these or 8 of these rainbow plating is super easy. And then if we take a quick look at the rainbow core, this is just glass that has been stained a variety of colors, and 2 netherite furnaces, which is pretty simple for us again. If you are struggling to make the stained glass because of the lack of flowers or whatever material you need to make the dye, I do recommend planting some dye seeds just so that you can make these very easily. I do have dye essence, and it is how I've been dyeing our cables so that we can color code these guys and figure out what leads to what. But yeah, I'm going to make that, and then I'll be back in just a moment. Alright, and I am back. I did make 2 of these rainbow furnaces. I know we do need 2 for this recipe, one of the items needed for the Altamont Star. However, you are also going to want some of these guys, just because you are going to need to give a little bit of TNT some redstone, and when it blows up, as you can see, we got a nice little rainbow coal, which this guy is also used for another item that's needed for the Altamont Star. Just wanted to go over that just because I am very good at not paying attention to these quests and how these guys can be made, so just wanted to go over it real quick with you guys, as well as go over some of the other things that I am going to be working on offline, such as crafting this magmatic generator, the ender generator, the nether star generator, as well as these wither seeds, these cruxes, some of these arrows, and yeah, some of the other guys I will go over with you guys. However, I did want to showcase this just because I figured out that the black hole is obtainable in this game, in this version of Oritech. However, there is a little downside to it. As you can see, I do have the Schrodinger safe on top of it, but if we come over here and mine this guy real quick, you can see this guy's starting to pull some blocks towards it. Yes, these blocks will be collected and voided, so if you do spawn in this black hole, it is highly recommended to have a Schrodinger safe on you, just so that you could put it on and prevent the black hole from destroying all the blocks that surround it. So let me grab a little bit of cobblestone and fix this. We already lost the obsidian, but if you were wondering how to get this black hole from Oritech, it is kinda simple after you understand how the particle accelerator or the particle collider works. So the way I have it set up is I was using our little setup from last time. So we are going from this little ring, which this ring is a 7 by 7. Well, technically, if you're not including these edges, each one of these sides is 7 blocks long, which after hitting a certain speed will be launched into this accelerator, which this one is 17 blocks in length per side. Of course, this one does have a nice gap of 6 blocks, so if we count it out, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this being the 6. So this will launch to this side and continue gaining speed and keep on going until it hits a desired speed, to which it'll be launched into this side, which the max gap between these guide rings can be 10 blocks long. So if we count it out, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, this being on the 10th block. So that's how the corners are. This is the max gap possible. And the length of this edge is 42 blocks, so each one of these is 42, and this will allow the particle to reach speeds of 15,000 or higher, which is what you are going to need to collide some particles for the nether star or anything that requires that much energy. Another one being creating the black hole. So the way this works is you got to put a fire charge inside of the particle accelerator over there, and as you have it build up speed, you do need it to hit 15,000, which is why I have the redstone set all the way out here, because once it hits redstone, or the signal is giving off 15, it'll light this, sending the particle to go straight after its last run, which you do need to launch the fire charge into another portal, and it does have to hit the portal, not the outside frame of the obsidian. As long as it hits the portal, it'll turn it into this black hole. How I said, you are going to need a Schrodinger safe to put around it to create the energy bank, if you do not put anything around it, it'll still reach out and pick up blocks at random and void it. So a little note to self, if you do plan on making this guy, I currently do not know how to move the black hole, how to move this guy around, so if you do plan on making him, so that you can create a little power bank, I recommend being a little precise with where you are setting this up to create the black hole. Just because, like how I made it here, it is nowhere near the base, so I can't really store energy, not to mention the power bank currently without any indirect lasers is only at 100 million, which is nothing, but if we do add a ton of lasers, who knows what it could get to, and it might be useful. Yeah, that's how the black hole works, and that's the setup that we have to achieve that high of an acceleration for a particle. Another thing that I did want to go over, and the last bit from Oritech for a while, just because I don't think there is anything else that we might need from this mod, is this reactor. So this reactor is pretty cool. I did have to do a lot of testing on a test world to make sure that this can operate completely without any issues, but as you can see, it is quite a big reactor, and I honestly don't think this is currently worth the trouble of setting up, just because the reactor can be quite fragile in the sense that if you do not manage it correctly, it can easily overheat and cause a meltdown and exploding. So, a little FYI about that. Let me put some of this stuff in. As you can see, I do have 2 uranium ports per quadrant, or per corner, so we do have a total of 8. So I'll put 4 over here and 4 over here, just so you guys can see how this works. But basically, I do have these modular routers sending the items or the uranium to the uranium ports so that it can absorb the fuel and start working. So as soon as I put this down, as you can see, it does send the fuel out, and this will begin. If we take a quick look, this is only producing about 10,000 RF per tick, which is alright, I guess, in a sense, just because it is only 1 layer high, which means as you add multiple layers, it'll add another 10,000 RF per tick, which can be pretty cool. Once you add 10 to 20 layers, now you're producing 100 to 200,000 RF per tick, which is alright, but it isn't the best. If we do want RF produced in that range, we can always just use extreme reactors, which is way more simple and doesn't have this sort of issue. But as you can see, everything in this reactor is being fully cooled, which is awesome. The way that I do have this set up is having roughly about, what is this, 9 ice absorber ports or ice coolers per quadrant. This has been the most efficient way of cooling this guy down, and I do recommend making sure that you do have these heat pipes connected all the way around these guys, so if you do put them side by side or adjacent to each other, to have the heat pipes go around completely around each one, just so the heat can be transferred from wherever the heat source is out and around these guys, because these guys will cool down the heat pretty efficiently. You are also going to want some of these heat vents just thrown out and about. These guys do also help dissipate heat, but not that good compared to these guys. I think the max I've gotten the heat vents to dissipate was about 7. I don't know what the heat unit this uses, but this is 7. This cools down 16 per side. So in theory, this cools down a total of 48 compared to 7, which is an insane difference. But yeah, let me go into spectator mode so that you guys can see per quadrant. This is kind of what I have it at. So if you do make this guy, you do need at least an 11 by 11 to make one of these corners work very efficiently. But yeah, it does the job. If you are using a mod pack that only has Oritech machinery, this would probably be the best setup possible to get energy. However, I'm pretty sure if the mod pack has Oritech, it does have at least one other power generation mod, and I still recommend using that one over this unless the mod pack specifically changes the RF production, because I'm pretty sure here it is still, I think, 64 RF per tick per side or something along that lines. I'm not too sure, I don't remember the numbers, but it isn't that high. However, if it was quadrupled to 256 RF per tick per side per rod, I think this reactor would be insanely better. Just depends on the numbers and the configurations used in the mod pack. But yeah, that is the particle accelerator, how to get the black hole, reach max speed, and the reactor. And as we mentioned earlier, some of the ways to get the rainbow coal. Alright, and so when it comes to bees, as you guys already know, there are a variety of ways of getting these guys to a certain productivity, aka getting lucky and getting these guys at high. However, there are ways to increase those traits, whether it is the productivity, the weather tolerance, behavior, endurance, temper, all those things can be changed. And if you've guessed it, yes, it does stem from the gene indexer. So here, where is it? If I come over here and grab one of these metaternal samples, this changes its behavior for if these guys work in the day or the night. Diurnal meaning they work during the day, and then nocturnal, of course, means they only work at night. Let me take care of this bee real quick. But yeah, if you are wondering how you can get these guys to work day and night, you would need to make it metaternal. That's how I got this. To do that, you are going to need a bee. I do recommend getting a water bee. You just put them on a lead, tie him to a post, and you just leave him outside for a couple days, and then he'll turn into a metaternal bee, which is pretty useful because if you do this to two water bees that have high productivity, you can just go inside and breed them, and then because of that, you'll have a ton of different bees that you could grow up, throw through the indexer or through the little production to come into the indexer to get said gene sample. And I don't know if you guys remember, but if you get one of these samples, all you do have to do is combine it with that, and just like that, you do have a honey treat. If you do want to change one of your bees to make him metaternal, all you do have to do is, let me come over here, grab a cage real quick. We are going to turn one of these unobtainium bees into a metaternal bee. So I'll do this just like that. I have him here. You can just right click him down, right click with the gene sample, and just like that, he has turned into a metaternal unobtainium bee. Of course, you could always change the productivity. So if you don't like their current stats, you could always do that and upgrade them. But bees, 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 bees. There is another thing that I have been working on, and that is collecting some of these gene samples for the skeletal bee. What? There's another one? Okay. Goodbye. The reason why I do want the skeletal bee is because we are going to need it for these withered bees. I'm not sure if these guys can reproduce once we have two of them. However, if we can't, then we are going to need these skeletal bees, which means we just need to spawn them in, which is pretty easy. We just farm some of these gene samples and then combine it with an egg, and then that's how we could get more. or we can just let them spawn in the dark and then we could just collect them straight from the hive, which is also what I've been doing. Alright, so the reason why we are going to need the withered bee is because we are going to need the withered comb block for the withered compass over here. Which if we take a quick look, it's also going to need the 64x nether star generator. That's why I do have it up here. And then we are going to need the nether star crux, so we are going to have to farm a wee bit of these guys and or just craft it, just because it can be crafted with these wither predictions, some skulls, the comb blocks, and if we take a quick look at this, it can be crafted relatively easy, or you could find another way to just farm the wither straight up. There are a variety of different ways you can go about collecting anything needed to make these cruxes. These arrows, of course, are made through potions. And then we also have this wither builder and the glyph, and then this scroll, which the scroll might be one of the harder parts. However, this can be made easily with having a legendary ink. To get the legendary ink, the other day we did go capture the dead king, which if you farm him through Arms Nouveau or any other method that can extract the loot from the boss, you can easily gather a ton of legendary ink, as well as buy it from the wandering trader here and there whenever he does show up. But yeah, these are some of the things that I am doing on the side, collecting the gene samples passively through these Pokey gene samplers, and or just going out and about and collecting them just so I could get things for the different bees. Just a little note, there are going to be some spawn eggs we are going to need for some of these components, so make sure to look at the recipe when you do see it. You are most likely going to have to come over here to either the incubation or the item casting. Highly likely you're going to need the item casting, just because if we do come over here, as you can see, this ghostly bee spawn egg does need soul lava to be poured on top of it through productive metalworks to turn this ghostly bee into the soul lava bee, which will be used for the dragon soul. Be a little warned, you are going to need quite a lot of these ender dragon data models, so make sure when you do go fight the ender dragon a second time to have a few of these models on you, just to click on it so that you can start getting this done. You are going to need to kill 2 ender dragons, so be warned, and it does take a little while to get these guys maxed out, so the sooner you do this the better. But yeah, make sure to go through the recipe trees and look at the things that you are going to need. I'm pretty sure some of them, if you're at a stage similar to me, you can obtain relatively easily. Some of them are easy, however, it's just gonna take a while to upgrade them, so make sure you pay attention to that just so you don't fall behind. But yeah, if you guys remember, in our B episodes we did set this guy up, so make sure to go back to that to watch it to see how we set this up. But yeah, all you gotta do is make sure you have some soul lava in it, put the ghostly bee down, right click it, and then you'll easily turn it into the other egg. So that's basically all that I did want to talk about. A little refresher on the bees, the productive metalworks being needed, other ways that you can collect genes besides just going and smashing them, especially if they cannot reproduce. This is probably one of the better ways. You can always just come over here, turn them into a metaternal bee, which I did right there, just so that these guys can consistently produce the genes you need. Of course, if you do want to speed it up, you do have the lovely time wand that'll allow you to do that. As for the items inside, I do recommend setting up a little drawer and then throwing a void upgrade and getting rid of all the items that this produces that you don't need, just so that you always have room to have for the genes. As you can see, it has been accumulating quite a lot, and I do have this little pulse timer ticking. To combine it, you could also just put a lever down and give it power, and it'll continuously get that done. Besides that, we went over a little bit of Oritech stuff, and then I asked you guys a question about whether we want this building to keep this little this oversized circular tower, or if we want to get rid of it, add another wall design like this, add some windows to it, and then calling it a day. But yeah, just like that, we are going to wrap up this episode. I know not a lot really occurred, but I have been busy with a couple of other things, so forgive me for that. But tomorrow's episode will be a little more packed with things that we can do to get items for the All the Mod Star, two of which will be pneumatic craft and a little bit of create. How I said, you guys have 2 days after this video goes up to decide what happens to this. After that, I am going to do what I think would suit this guy best. So, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to go down in the comments and let me know what you guys think should be done to the mansion, and or if you guys have any suggestions regarding what I should do next for the All the Mod Star. Make sure to leave it down there. If you guys have advice for certain things, aka if you guys have a better way for the bees, let me know. I might be down to check it out, learn something new, as long as it helps us with the series. And if you have any questions, make sure to ask them down below. I do check the community tab daily, just in case you guys do have questions. I do try to get to those and answer them whenever you do, just because I am here to help you guys out, as well as it helps me retain some of this information for, who knows, a possibly next series. Maybe. Hint, hint. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, peace.